Hi everyone, welcome back to this series of PMP practice questions, ideal for preparing for your PMP exam. Specifically, this set is from the PMBOK 7th edition, the latest edition of the PMBOK guide as well. So you'll see a lot more Agile stuff, a lot more adaptive questions, more on leadership and working together and collaborating than the process-driven stuff in the PMBOK 6th edition. All really good information to have and a great way to prepare. Let's get into it. Your project team have found a significant data vulnerability in one of the features planned in your product backlog, where customer data is exposed without password access. Okay, wow, that's pretty bad. Okay, this feature is partially made by a third-party vendor. Okay, so we don't even control this necessarily, third-party vendor. And the relationship is owned by a functional manager in your organization. What will you do next? Okay. And it looks like here we've got answers relating to risk. So what are we doing with this particular threat or this particular risk? Let's have a look. Do we avoid the risk and wait for the third-party vendor to fix the vulnerability? I think in this case, this is pretty serious. So I think we need to take action or get some sort of traction on this quickly or straight away if possible. So I think that's a no for now. Transfer the risk by asking a different vendor to create a feature with no vulnerability in their design. I mean, that's sort of taking action, but in the meantime, what are we going to do? That could actually take time to do. I mean, it's a maybe a low maybe for that one. Escalate the risk to the manager with the appropriate authority to act on the response. So it looks like we're talking about the different types of, the way that we can respond to risks. Do we avoid it or transfer it? Do we escalate it? I think in this case, because it's quite a severe risk, we can escalate it. Plus, we don't have any authority. It's owned by someone else. It's a separate vendor. So we actually need to go to the people who have that authority and have that information, who can actually do something about it. I think that's probably a good one. Accept the risk and move on to other features so the work continues to get done. I don't think if it's that severe of a risk, I think we shouldn't just accept it. I think we should still raise it and try and do something about it. So let's go with answer C. There it is. With project risks and responses to threats, there are 5 main types: avoiding, escalating, transferring, mitigating, and accepting them. Escalation is appropriate when the project team agrees that the threat is outside the scope of the project or exceeds the project manager's authority. So that's a very good one to know. Obviously, we could try and manage it first, but in this case, it's well outside of our realm. I think it's appropriate to escalate it. That's page 123 in the PMBOK Guide 7th edition under Overall Project Risks and Threats, which is really good to know, so you can go directly there if you want to. Very, very handy. How did you guys go with that one? All right, let's see what we have next. You brainstorm risk responses with your project team and project sponsor and decide you cannot transfer a certain high impact risk. Okay, so we can't transfer it and it is high impact. You also can't avoid the risk and there is no one in the organization to escalate it to. Okay, that doesn't leave us with many options. Your project sponsor agrees that you should actively accept the risk. And I think there's a difference here between actively and passively accepting the risk. I just can't remember what it is. What will you do next? Okay, develop a contingency plan that would be triggered if the event occurred. I think that actually sounds pretty good because it will still happen, but we'll be ready, we'll be actively accepting it, but we've got something ready if it does actually happen. That actually could be good. So we've got our contingency plan ready, and yes, it might happen, but we're ready if it does. Let's see what else we have just in case. Shift the ownership to a third party to manage the risk and bear the impact if it does occur. I think it said we couldn't transfer it, actually, but that is transferring the risk, so it's not actively accepting it. Act to eliminate the threat or protect the project from its impact only. Is that mitigating, I think, or mitigating the threat? Let's see what the last one is just in case. Take action to reduce the probability of its occurrence and the impact of the threat. So I think that's very similar, but either way, both of these, I don't think that's actively accepting. That's probably more putting in mitigations for the risk or that sort of thing. For our purposes, let's go with answer A. There it is. All right. This question is describing the various risk responses to threats. Actively accepting a risk can include developing a contingency plan, which is exactly what we were doing, that would be triggered if the event occurred. Passive acceptance means just accepting it and doing nothing. Okay, so that's the difference up there. Acting to eliminate the threat is avoiding it. Okay, so that's avoiding, and the other one must be mitigating, I think. So mitigating the risk is taking action to reduce the probability of occurrence or the impact. So that's all the various ways that we can respond to those risks, which is very, very handy to know. On page 123, under Risk Threats in the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. Really good information to have. All right, how did you guys go? Let's see what we've got next. You're working on a project to build a new customer database system for an engineering team. In working with the requirements, you realize that this system can also work with other teams in your organization. And the effort to add those teams is actually quite small. What will you do next? Okay, wonderful. That sounds good. And it looks like this is really similar. We're looking at opportunities now because it's a positive risk. And so what are the different options that we have? We can work with the other teams and their managers to escalate it, exploit it, enhance it, or accept the opportunity. Okay, so what are we going to do here? I think escalating it is when we don't have the authority, so maybe, but I think there's possibly a better one. Accepting it is just if we, again, could be passive or active acceptance when we're just accepting that it's there. Enhancing it is when it's already happening perhaps and now we're sort of making more of it. That could fit. But I think probably the best one for us is to exploit the opportunity, to actively make sure that it happens. So it's like mitigating a risk. We're actually taking action. We're saying, okay, let's do it and let's make this opportunity happen. I think for our purposes, let's go with answer. I mean, there's a lot of good ones here. Maybe we'll get some tips in the answer. I'm pretty sure we really want to exploit this though. Let's try answer B. Okay, that was good. I mean, could have gone a few different ways, but let's see what our tips are here. When dealing with opportunities in your project, there are 5 main responses. Exploit is acting to ensure an opportunity occurs. Okay, so that's good. We're definitely doing that. Escalating is when it's outside the authority of the project manager, just like we said. Sharing allocates ownership to a third party who is best able to capture its benefit. So if there was someone else, it is another team, but I think we're still adding that information. So even sharing may not have fit the best for us because we still need to actually exploit it and do the work. Enhancing is increasing the probability of its occurrence. Okay, so that's actually very good information to have. Do we enhance it? Well, no, we still need to exploit the opportunity and make sure that it happens, not just increase it, the probability of it happening. And then actively accepting merely acknowledges that it is existing without doing anything extra. So I think we want to take a bit more action than that. And there it is, page 125 under risks and opportunities in the PMBOK guide. So that's actually pretty good. We're getting a really good view of risks, positive and negative risks, uncertainties. It's actually pretty good. How did you guys go with that one? Let's see what we've got next. I think these are getting pretty good. A little bit difficult too. You're working as a product owner in an Agile team, and during a recent risk review, the team have uncovered various risks, more risks, excellent, that's always fun, that will impact your project. You brainstorm risk responses with your team. The project customer would like them to be mitigated as soon as possible. What will you do next? Okay, so, and again, we're a product owner in an Agile team, so how do we deal with risk in an Agile team? Probably very similarly to the way we deal with everything else. We prioritize it, and we prioritize the highest risks first, I think. Let's see if we have anything that aligns with that. Ask your team to work on the risk responses and get them done as soon as possible. So we've got what risk responses. Are we just asking them to just go ahead and do it? Okay, but what about all the other work within the team as well? I think, you know, we still need to make sure that we're working on the right things. So that's a maybe, but you know, maybe we've got something better. Ignore the risks initially. Some might dissipate over time and only the important ones will be left. in fact, it might go the opposite way as well. So then maybe those risks will get worse and blow out of proportion. So I think we really want to tackle risk and be actively managing it. Assign the risk responses to all stakeholders around your project team to share the load. You could do this, but only if it's appropriate. Some people might end up with risks that they know nothing about, and then it's just going to take them forever to do as well. So let's put a no for that one for now. Here we go. Prioritize, that beautiful word in Agile. Prioritize the risks by comparing the expected monetary value of the risk to the anticipated return on investment. So it's similar to cost benefit, I guess. So the value of the risk, the impact, versus how much we need to invest, how much return on investment. Oh, so we're comparing it against the return on investment of our other deliverables. Oh, so we're prioritizing all of that, and maybe a risk will fit in here because it has a high monetary value, and then something else has a lower value, a feature, so that gets bumped down. That's how we prioritize that. That's actually pretty good information. I really love that one. Let's go with answer D. And there we are. Prioritizing risk responses in a risk-adjusted backlog is just as important as prioritizing features to avoid negative risk impacts and technical debt. Comparing the expected monetary value of a risk to the anticipated return on investment of a deliverable allows product owners to incorporate risk responses into the planned work in a normal way. So that's actually very handy. I'm probably going to use that in the real world as well. So this is not just for our exam. This is actually good stuff to know, very good information to have. All right, how did you guys go with that one? I think we're nearly halfway through, so you're doing great. You're planning a project where supply chains have been impacted and the requirements are complex and intertwined with other areas of the business. Your project sponsor asks you to manage these risks before the project moves to execution. What will you do next? Okay, so we have to manage the risks. What do we want to do here? Move to project execution so you can work through risks as they happen. I think there's probably something better. It's complex. Maybe that's a clue. Move to an agile way of work so you can deliver faster and also deal with the complexity. I think there's probably a better way here. Again, just changing our way of work often doesn't help. Because we still have all of these things in life that impact our project. We still have to manage those things, whether we're working agile or waterfall or anything in between. Note the risks with appropriate controls and add a contingency reserve in the project budget. As we've been over a few times, you've got your project cost, you add a contingency reserve for risks, which becomes your project budget, and then you add the management reserve for any unforeseen scope on top of that that's still within the scope of the project. And so that's our way of managing these risks before it gets to execution. That's actually pretty good. Assign a management reserve. Oh, and that's a nice one, sort of throwing us off there. But as we saw, management reserve, more for scope. So to deal with the risks before moving to project execution, not that one for us. Let's go with answer C. Excellent work. Reserves are an amount of time or budget set aside to account for handling risks. Contingency reserve is for identified risks, should they occur. Management reserve is for unknown events, such as unplanned, in-scope work. And that's page 127, Management and Contingency Reserve in the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. Wonderful stuff. And I know we've been through that a few times, but it's a good information to have still, and also useful for your own projects when you're going to need maybe to tap into some contingency reserve for those risks. All right, what have we got next? You're working on an agile project and delivering a usable feature every few weeks. The project sponsor is from a waterfall background and is concerned that there is not enough focus on risk, of course. I think there's certainly enough focus on risk in this set of questions though. So, at least we've got that covered. They would like to hold a regular risk review with a wide group of stakeholders. What will you suggest instead? Okay, so agile project. We don't want big meetings because that can end up being a waste of time. We want small focused meetings, like stand-ups and demonstrating the actual work. So how do we manage risk on an agile project? There is no need for a separate meeting as risk is everyone's responsibility in an agile team. Sort of, but maybe we could do something a bit more here. So a low maybe for that one. Use daily stand-ups to report blockers early, sounding good, and fortnightly demonstrations, that's our sprint review, of the product to catch any stakeholder dissatisfaction. I think that actually sounds very, very good. So, that's capturing types of risk, but in a physical, like in an actual way, using the actual product and talking close in person, place and time. That's pretty good. So use the Kanban board to see the work and how it flows. That's also a good option. We're sort of uncovering things doing that, but I think this is still the best. Hold the risk meeting, but only with the immediate project team to avoid unnecessary participants. We might actually need some of those external stakeholders, so that's something to consider. So for our purposes, I think we're going to go with answer B. In Agile teams, the risk review can take the form of the daily stand-up, reporting blockers that could become threats if they continue to delay progress. Frequent demonstrations of the product can also surface threats and opportunities, as can retrospectives. While quality is everyone's responsibility and the Kanban board does visualize the work, B is the best answer. Page 127 under Risk Review in the PMBOK Guide, 7th edition. All right, that was pretty good. Lots of risk stuff, Agile, waterfall, lots of different ways to handle it, and it's actually really great. How did you guys go with that one? Let's see what we've got next. Your project management office has no prescribed way of work, so they're working with a vendor who supplies an extreme programming framework at a significant cost. Okay, well, that's an interesting scenario. Maybe not for the real world, or maybe your organization is using it, but projects are still running behind schedule, over budget, and with low customer satisfaction. And by the way, this could be for any framework. I see this happen all the time. Replace this name with some other name, you name it, it's happened. What are we going to do next? Okay, tricky situation as always. Let's see what we've got. Tailor the approach to suit the organization, operating environment, and project needs. Okay, that actually sounds pretty good. And that's a big theme in the PMBOK Guide as well, is tailoring to suit your project environment, or to suit the environment that you're in. So we can take any, again, this could be anything. Could be waterfall, could be Scrum, could be, you've got other Agile frameworks, hundreds of Agile frameworks almost, but all of those do need to be tailored to suit the organization. That's actually pretty good. Let's see what else we have just in case. Use a waterfall approach instead to ensure the proper planning. Again, same thing. Switch to Scrum instead. And see, this is the thing. We could literally switch to anything, but we'd still need to tailor it as it's a more popular framework. Of course, you'll see that happen all the time. Oh, got to do the most popular one. There must be a reason for it, or, people get tricked by that, but it's not always the best. Tighten the controls around the project environment with a more directive PMO approach. I think for our purposes, we really want to tailor it. Let's go with answer A. Projects operate in complex environments that need to balance competing demands. Tailoring is performed to better suit the organization, operating environment, and project needs. Page 132 under Tailoring Overview in the PMBOK Guide, 7th edition. Wonderful stuff. All right, only 3 to go. You're doing great. Let's keep going. Your project management office is in the middle of a company-wide ways of working transformation. Okay, similar situation here. They have taken a popular project framework and are tailoring it to the organization with branded templates and processes that meet their existing governance requirements. So controlling PMO, perhaps? You have been asked to help finalize the process. What will you do next? Okay, do we gather feedback from the functional business areas to ensure the process meets their needs? This is more about a project management office, so potentially no for that one. Roll out the new way of working to the PMO as a pilot, then to the rest of the organization. Maybe, I wonder if there's a better one here. Enable a process for tailoring. Again, I think this might be our key word here. Based on size and complexity, that's really good. And implement ongoing improvement. So again, we won't get it right the first time. We're going to need to adapt it and improve it over time. I think that's also a bit of the Agile sort of creeping in there, that continuous improvement happening. Form a working group comprised of executives and project professionals. Also, I think there's more to it than that. So for our purposes, I really love the process. Let's go with answer C. Excellent work. This question is referring to the tailoring process, which is select the initial development approach, tailor for the organization, tailor for the project, and implement ongoing improvement. So that's a good process to be aware of. Page 137, the tailoring process in the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. And again, this stuff is direct from the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. It's a good way to learn it, nice and easy, scenario-based, but also quite similar to what we'll see on the exam, which is also good. And we've only got 2 to go. That's also good. I think we're doing great. Let's do this. You're a manager of a PMO in a large organization which has recently undertaken a company-wide way of working transformation. You need to select an initial development approach for your projects, which you will then tailor to suit them further. What will you do next? Okay, an initial development approach, and then we're going to tailor that. So we've learned all our lessons from the past questions that we just had, and now it's time to select an initial approach before we tailor it. How do we do that? Okay, use a framework that best engages your executive team through easy-to-use graphics and presentations. Oh boy, isn't that a can of worms? Okay, let's not get started on that. It's tempting to be bamboozled by beautiful graphics and presentations, but let's put our critical thinking hats on and use the one that actually gets the work done. Oh, okay, let's put a no for that one for now, and I don't want to go any more about that. We could talk for hours. Select the most popular current framework to keep up with what other organizations are doing. Wow, okay. I feel this question, now they're just pulling our leg for all of these. Okay, we don't have to keep up with the Joneses. We have to do what's right for our organization, what fits our project environment. Let's put a no for that one. Select multiple development approaches as a baseline for your organization. Look, that's probably going to go wrong because now we've got to keep up with multiple development approaches. So, there may not be a one-size-fits-all, and that's fine. But also, if you've learned anything from these questions and the PMBOK Guide, we generally have the same steps, whether it's waterfall, whether it's agile. You've got, and I can't remember them all, but let's design, build, test, and release. That sort of idea, and all of those steps are present, no matter what idea that you're using, what framework you're using. So let's put a no on that one for now. And I hope the last one is correct because we're out of ideas now. Use a suitability filter. Okay, that actually sounds quite promising. To assess the most appropriate development approach. Makes complete sense. Suitability filters, it gets sort of advanced, once we get through all of our basic agile, how-tos, then we start looking into coaching and evolving organizations. And when we do that, using a suitability filter is a great way to start. So answer D is fantastic. Let's do that one. And there it is. A suitability filter helps project teams consider whether a project has characteristics that lend themselves towards a predictive, hybrid, or adaptive approach. Select one of them as a base, then enable the ability to tailor to your project or organization's circumstances. Really good answer. Page 138, select initial development approach in the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. Let's see what we've got next. Your organization is starting to move to an agile way of work, and they're setting up a value delivery office, or VDO, to complement the existing PMO, project management office. The executives in the area have begun working through what the function looks like and the roles and responsibilities that might exist. They approach you for help. What will you tell them? Okay, let's see. What is a VDO, basically? What do they do? A VDO is responsible for the value delivered and owns the programs within the organization. I think that might be more the PMO. I'm not sure. I wonder if there's a better option here. The VDO focuses on coaching, that sounds promising, coaching project teams, because in Agile or value delivery, we're more coaches, we're more about facilitation rather than directing, that sort of thing. Building adaptive skills, growing our teams, capabilities, and mentoring sponsors and product owners to be more effective. I think that's actually a really good answer, so we'll see what else we have. The VDO is responsible for Agile resources, such as Scrum Masters and product owners to be allocated effectively to project teams. That might be your directive PMO, again, sort of more of a PMO function. The VDO creates the organizational framework to be used on each project throughout the company. Again, probably more of that directing PMO function. I think for our purposes, value delivery, let's go with coaching, building, growing, and mentoring, answer B. Excellent work, all right. A video serves an enabling role rather than a management or oversight function. It focuses on coaching project teams, building adaptive skills and capabilities throughout the organization, and mentoring sponsors and product owners. Page 141, tailor for the organization, the Value Delivery Office. But you know what else has brought value is you and I going through these questions, having a little bit of fun, hopefully a lot of fun, who knows, but also learning a whole bunch while we're at it. I've had an absolute blast and I hope you've enjoyed yourself as well. But more importantly, I truly believe that you can pass your PMP exam, and I know what you're doing is going to help your career so much. You are doing the right thing. Keep going. I know you can do it, and I truly, truly believe in you. I hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.